we caught a lot of flack because we went from independent labels to a major label, but our message never changed. And I kept singing and screaming about things that were just equally as important as they were on the first record, but with a giant megaphone, and more people heard what we were saying. And I realized, wow, Pop, you were right. I still got a fucking shaved head. I still have the same beliefs, but I'm not the outsider. I weaseled my way into the system through the cracks, but with the same message. Anyways, maybe it's a little bit boring to some people.
No, it's not boring. I think it's important to hear because, there's a lot of people that are, having that same conversation with themselves. They have a message they want to get out and they want to, change the world in some way or another. And, not to say that everyone should take that route. I respect people who kind of want to do things their own way and say, fuck the system. That's cool too. But at the same time, like maybe if you play ball, you might actually get a little bit further. And, you guys are a great example of that. Like you can think what you want about MTV, but how many people did you reach with MTV? Like tens or hundreds of millions.
Beavis and Butthead helped us reach a lot of people that would have never heard of Biohazard.
Right.
We didn't change the message. We're still singing about the same things we wanted. It's just suddenly they just for some reason gravitated to us, which I can relate to. But even after all these years, if it doesn't suck or it's amazing, it's not worthy. You know what I mean? That's it.
Right. Yeah. One or the other.
This has got fucking amazing or this fucking sucks. That's it. Everything in between is mediocre.
Yeah. Period. Yeah. Well, I did want to ask you a little bit about that, kind of those early days. I'm curious, what was your relationship with the hardcore scene, say, before Urban Discipline? Because I remember, like I said earlier, people said Biohazard was too metal, kind of like Life of Agony. It seemed like there was sort of that scene of, and Carnivore and Typo Negative of these like kind of half metal, half hardcore bands that all played like the Moors. What was your relationship with hardcore back then?
So I was the hardcore kid that went to CBGBs and Biohazard. I was a guy, even though they all liked hardcore, but I was like only into hardcore and punk. That's it. And the guys kind of, I known about Sabbath and Slayer, but I didn't like it. For some reason, if it wasn't hardcore, I shut it out. The guys in Biohazard actually turned me on to a lot more metal. So when we came up, hardcore, I was like the first punk rock band I played in. I told the guys, listen, they didn't want to do it anymore. The band was breaking up. I said, we're going to play CBGBs one day. They're like, nah, we're not. I'm going to stay focused on school. I'm like, this fuck school. Come on, dude, let's play CBGBs. That's awesome. So when Biohazard was kind of an outcast. When we played with metal bands, we were too hardcore. When we played with hardcore bands, we were too metal. So we didn't fit in anywhere. And what we ended up doing was creating, like I said before, I called it, and I didn't mean this in a disrespectful way because I got Irish blood and there's redheads in my family. But I said we were kind of like the redhead stepchild where we didn't fit in anywhere because we also there was hip hop influence and there was a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of metal. But when the New York hardcore scene didn't open up, welcome us with open arms, it bothered me. It hurt me because the bands that I loved to go see at CBGBs on Sunday matinees, that's who I wanted to fit in with. But I think sticking to our guns and doing our own thing made us more unique and made us more attractive to people who liked more than just metal or more than just hardcore or more than just hip hop. They're like, I like Beastie Boys too and AF, but I like fucking Suicidal Tendencies. Right. We kind of, those people gravitated to us. And it was almost like it was cool to like a little bit of everything. It kind of sucked because out of that coolness came the baggy pants, big over extra large t-shirts, but it was a trend for a little bit. But that open-mindedness at that era changed a lot, especially in the New York scene. And it kind of spread to the world and changed and opened a lot of doors for a lot of people and a lot of bands. So yeah. I'm proud of.
Another thing that I became aware of later was how big you guys were in Europe. I remember, like, my understanding is you guys were like almost like a mainstream radio band in Germany. Is that right?
I don't know about mainstream. I know that, like, it was a different thing. We always sell, and most bands sell the most records in the US. But geographically speaking, it's a bigger population by far, and it's spread out over much, huge mass of land. Whereas Europe, smaller population crammed into a smaller area. You can go on tour in Europe in
Right.
2 weeks. You can hit all the major cities.
It's like touring the East Coast of America.
Yeah, or New England.
Yeah.
Whereas in the States, it takes you 2 months to hit most, not all, but a majority of the major cities. That's 2 months versus 2 weeks. So when you put that concentration, we always seem to play in front of way more people there. But playing in front of, barring like cities like Miami, New York, LA, Chicago, right, Detroit, the major cities, you play in front of Des Moines, Iowa, unless you're Slipknot, or, you have to cross over a huge threshold of record sales to reach all those people. And most of the records you sell in the States, most of the people, when you really hit the big leagues of like what the labels call your major sales, it's all in middle America. But the other thing too, like it's a big difference. Like some of the biggest New York bands in the underground punk and hardcore scene, you're playing in front of like 1,500 kids at Lemoore or the Ritz or whatever. But then when you're this equal size, but you're from California, you're playing in front of 5,000 kids. Right. Bands like Pennywise or
right,
Bad Religion. So it's just geographically different in America than it is in Europe. So to say that we were a radio band, I think it was more so because of the geographic difference.
Got it. Well, it seems like Europe back then, I mean, I guess still, but they really took to like Dog Eat Dog and Madball, and they really liked the kind of like New York hardcore adjacent kind of bands, like almost more than America did. Like all the Dynamo shit.
I think a lot had to do with it's like the brand of New York was always big, especially when it hit Japan. Forget about it. It was like fucking, it's right, massive. There's a certain allure, and it's not like that anymore. I think people have individual identity and pride, and whether you're from, I don't know, Tempe, Arizona, or East LA.
Right.
But city, I think representing your turf, whether it was New York or LA, those were the turfs. Detroit, maybe. That was like the cities that really represented hard. And
right,
we never,
right.
The thing about Biohazard, it was funny. The media, and it was more so Europe, that was like, one of our songs, Biohazard, Biohazard from Brooklyn, New York, in your face. It was the end of a tag of a song for Wrong Side of the Tracks. And it just stuck. Maybe we put it on one t-shirt. Suddenly every press release from every fucking label was like Biohazard in Brooklyn couldn't be, it wasn't a sentence that didn't have the two words together.
Right, right.
And it was this like the media just, it's marketing, and it wasn't an intentional thing. It just